Hello everyone, we're ready for the next step in our process, which is to focus on memoir leads, keeping in mind that our overall unit essential question is how do memoirs help writers make meaning of their lives? But again, today we're going to focus in on our leads of our story, which are those beginnings, making sure that we capture our audience's attention and pull them in to want to read the rest of our piece. Materials for today's lesson are going to be the note sheet entitled Memoir Leads, which you can see pictured there to the right. You're going to need your earbuds, you're going to need a pencil, and then as always, you're going to need that thinking cap to be on and engaged. And for some of you, you might want to put the captions on so that you can be following along with what I'm saying in writing, not just listening, so that it can help keep your attention on the screen. If you have not done so yet, at this point, you're going to want to look back at all of your brainstorming that you have done and select a memory that you're going to use for your writing. Because what I want you to focus on today, as you're looking at the different examples of leads, I want you to keep your memory in the back of your mind so you can start thinking about which of those example leads are going to lend themselves best to the memory that you are sharing. Not everybody's memoir is going to work the same. So each of you are going to be able to choose your own way of beginning your story, and the way you begin your story might depend a lot on the memory that you're choosing to share. The first kind of lead that you could choose to use for your memoir is something called a startling statement. So you're choosing a short sentence, one word, that's going to shock your reader into wanting to read the rest of your piece. So this example, she has cancer. It's weird to write that down. My mother has cancer. She found out last week but couldn't bring herself to tell my brothers and me until today. So that 3-sentence starter right there shocks your reader and kind of also engages them at the same time and encourages them to want to read the rest of your story. So you're going to want to think about, does your story have something startling that you're sharing? Do you want to start your memoir with that? Or is that piece of information that you want to hold and keep from your audience because of some element of suspense you're trying to use? Hinting at a memory's significance. The example says, it was game day. Park Hills Packers versus Mannheim Vikings. We were the big dogs, the 3-0 Packers. I felt like a hot shot. I felt like I was King Kong and nothing could stop me. But I had no idea about what was to come my way. Karma. So just from reading these first few sentences, we can get the hint that maybe this individual, while they may have felt like they were on top of the world, something causes that to be swept out from underneath them and come crashing down. So it kind of hints that there's something significant that's going to happen later. If you want to think about it like foreshadowing, that's fine too. But starting your lead with hinting or foreshadowing something to come might be an option for you in the memoir that you're choosing to write. Here's another option. You could potentially research a fact or a statistic that relates itself to your memory. So here's an example. According to the United States Department of Agriculture, over 5 million farms dotted the nation in 1950, but this number has declined significantly to a little over 2 million farms today. Sadly, the farm on which I grew up is one of those farms that no longer exists. After spending my entire life on the farm, it all came to an abrupt end on a summer day in 1990, a day when we sold all of our cattle and equipment. So, starting with that statistic, kind of leads the way into this person's experience with farms and how that ended rather abruptly for her in 1990. Maybe your memoir focuses in more particularly on a specific person or perhaps on a specific place like your grandparents' house or your actual grandparent. So this might be an option for you. My dad is a quiet man who seldom shows his emotions. His stoic face masks any fears or excitements he may be experiencing. But on one summer day in 1990, I could read him like an open book, and what I saw written on his face was complete and utter sadness, a sadness that I felt, as well as our family's livelihood for the last 80 years, come to a close. The day of the auction of our family farm had finally arrived. So this is focusing again on one of the characters from the story and building upon the differences that this person has seen in their father, and that's the focus that they're using for their story. Again, because it's different than normal, they're using that to engage you as the audience. This piece focuses, or this lead focuses a little bit more specifically on a mood and creating the atmosphere in which the rest of the story is going to be told. So here's the example. As I trudged to the barn, the gray day seemed to weigh me down even more than the awareness of what was about to happen. Even the birds seemed to be silent, paying respect to the end of something valuable. Strange cars drove slowly up the driveway, the gravel crunching under the tires. I wished they would all just turn around and go home. Did they know that they were ruining my life? Did they know that they were stealing my family's livelihood and, in a way, our identity? As much as I wished it away, the day of my family's farm's auction had arrived, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. So again, this one focuses on the scene that's being painted, the environment within which the memory is going to be told, and you can feel from some of the word choice that the author has chosen that this isn't a cheerful kind of day. She's chosen to use words like trudged, gray, something's weighing her down, it was silent, strange cars. All of those things are leading to that negative, kind of depressing mood that she's trying to paint. This one's a little bit different. Instead of telling your story from beginning to end, this flips the structure of the memoir completely kind of up on end. So they're going to start at the end of the memory, and then kind of in the next, after the lead, work back to the beginning and then kind of fill in the blanks. So here's the beginning. Watching the last trailer pull away, I stood at the doors of the barn, aware that a piece of my heart was driving away that trailer. Tears trickled down my face, and I turned into the empty barn. Not a single sound could be heard except for the faint coos of a mourning dove. I stood wondering how, in just 12 hours, my life could have changed so drastically. My mind drifted back to 12 hours earlier when this difficult day was just getting underway. So again, they're starting at the end of the memory, and then right here is that sentence that's going to transition us back to the very beginning of the memory. My mind drifted back 12 hours earlier. So that's going to set us up for that kind of nice flashback in time to the beginning of the memory, and our author is going to fill us in on what happened throughout that day. So at this point, stop, pause, and gather any notes that you may have missed or that you want to jot down for yourself. If there are a few of those examples that are standing out to you, I would put a star next to them on your notes or jot down a quick idea that you may have before it pops out of your head and you forget it. But you should have 6 different types of leads written down on your note sheet that you could potentially be using for your own personal memoir. So at this point, it's going to be your turn to show me how well you've understood what this mini lesson has kind of gone over. So you're going to choose 3 options that we just looked at that might work best for the memory that you have chosen to share. Not all of them may work. All I'm asking you to do is to choose 3 different ones to try. Even if at this point you're like, I already know how I want to begin my story, I still want you to push yourself and try 3 different ways. Because sometimes, or not always, is our best idea our first idea. So I want you to push, and ultimately if you come back to that first idea that you had, that's fine, but I at least want to see that you're pushing yourself a little bit. So you're going to choose 3 options. You're going to write them down on your note sheet. There's a little place there that says type. You're going to fill in whichever type you've chosen to use, whether that be mood, description, end to beginning, whatever. Then you're going to actually write 3 beginnings for your memory. You're using the same memory for all 3 leads. So you're choosing that one memory and then writing 3 different beginnings. Your leads don't have to be long. You just saw a couple different examples. 2 to 3 sentences is fine for each lead. Then after you're finished all 3 leads, you're going to share your leads with a few classmates. 3 to 5 individuals is perfect. See what they think, which one grabs their attention the most. But then ultimately, you get to choose the most effective lead and circle and highlight it on your paper. If you're choosing to fill out the form online, then just highlight the one so I can see which one you're going to use. If you're choosing to take hard copy notes of this stuff and write your leads on paper, then circle or highlight on the paper which one it is you're choosing to use so that I can see as I'm walking around which one you have chosen to go with. Again, keep in mind you're writing this for an audience, so you want to take their feedback into consideration. But again, ultimately it's your story and you get to determine the outcome. So at this point, decide if you're doing your 3 leads on the computer in the form that is in Google Classroom, or if you're doing it on the one that's in front of you, and you can begin to get started.